Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach and welcome to the weekend preview. And it's the sort of selection table we like to see. It's pretty quiet, nothing too much really SuperCoach relevant in regards to ins and outs. I'll go through them now. Starting with the ins, Clayton Oliver returns, as does Kieran Byrne. Tom Rockcliffe is into the side, and another rookie prize player, Tom Ruggles, comes in to join Byrne and Oliver, which might help a few people out. It might not help many out, not too sure. And Travis Cloke comes back, which is obviously not for SuperCoach, but interesting to see Clokey named. Outs, Ben Kennedy was dropped, which a lot of people probably would have been culling him anyway after that 29. And Reece Matheson, very interestingly, was also dropped. So Jared Jansen came in, and I thought Matheson, not that I saw his games, but from what I heard, looking at the numbers, it looked like he was a real goer and had a crack, and the sort of guy who's worth persisting with more than 2 matches, but obviously not. And Michael Hartley is out with a hamstring, I believe, so probably time to get rid of him if it wasn't already. Now, what do you do this week? It's pretty simple. Basically, the take-home message is just to continue to trade in fallen premiums, which I'll mention in a few moments' time, and cull those rookies that have really peaked. A few of those, of course, Kennedy. Kerridge is getting fairly close as well. I know Corey Ellis for myself. Jaden Hunt as well is another one. Marcus Adams you could build a case for. Mitch Brown has probably done his dash. He had a bit of a price drop as well. Josh Smith is worth persisting with, that's for sure. Of course, Kennedy, who I mentioned. McDonald tipping Woody is still going pretty nicely, I think, so probably persist with him. But look, I think you just got to keep rolling out that rookie ramp and probably have a look out for if Tom Cole or Bailey Williams get named. They're on extended benches. Sam Collins is again named. Logan Austin was named for Port Adelaide on the team, or on the field, I should say. I don't know much about him. I didn't do any research into him yet. He's not on the bubble. He's just making his debut, but he could be someone we look at in a few weeks' time. But the real talking point is probably Todd Goldstein. Now, a lot of rumour that he could be out. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play, to be honest. Now, reason being, he copped a knock last week. Brad Scott said in the Thursday press conference that they'll play, or they'll name him, but they may think of ways that if he's not right, that they'll implement. So basically he said he's probably 50-50 chance. Now, of course he's named, so you're not out of the woods just because he's named. He was always going to be named in the side. Now, it might be a tense wait for Goldstein owners tomorrow night, but look, if he's out, then you probably just got to cop that. You got to hope that you've got Mason Cox there on the bench. But if you don't, and you're like, oh, Shorty, I'm going to cop a 0, well, you're probably just going to have to cop it. He's only going to be out for 1 week because he's pretty much, if this was a final, he'd be playing. He's pretty close, but you're not just going to get rid of the best ruckman in the competition just because he's out for 1 week. I know it sucks with a 0, and we always pray that our ruckmen stay fit and healthy because, when they go down, we don't really have anyone else on the bench. It's often a floating 0. I know it is for me. Some might have Mason Cox. Some may have Grimley, who isn't playing, I'm pretty sure. I don't think I recall seeing his name come into the side. So, there'd be a tough pill to swallow, and unfortunately, you just have to cop it, I think. So you just hold him. If you got any queries about that, don't go trading Goldstein out. It's just no point. Unless, if you're ranked 9th in the whole bloody competition and, you want to really get a leg up and you've got a few trades, then you might. But if you're just the everyday Joe who's ranked, wherever he is, and you got a more long-term view, then just hold the big man. So, other talking points, you probably got to move on to the captaincy, I suppose. I mean, before I get to that, those fallen premiums that I mentioned. Jared McVeigh, I like the look of. He hasn't fully sold me yet. He had a very good game last week. His score was boosted by a couple of goals, which is good, but we know what he can produce, and I do think after a slow pre-season and barely any pre-season that we're only going to start to see him get better in the second half of the year. And I know there's a lot of good defenders rolling around at the moment, and we probably have best coverage with the likes of Adams and Darcy Byrne-Jones, McDonald tipping Woody in the back line. But there's nothing like getting a bloke that I think you'll want to have come round 19, 20, 21, etc. for about 440,000. He's an absolute bargain. He'll make his way into my team, I think. So I advise it. I think Rance is also a good buy. I can also see why you wouldn't go for those guys because, the list of good defenders is relatively long these days. You've got the likes of Heath Shaw, Doherty, Johannesson when he comes back, Matty Boyd, Laird, Bartel. There's quite a few there just going off the top of my head. I probably missed a couple as well. So you could imagine and you could understand that, maybe some people view McVeigh and Rance as a D8, D9, coming year's end. You could argue the point that they don't need to be must-haves. But I'll tell you what, Robbie Gray's a must-have. I would be bringing him in. I will be. Dangerfield, look out for him. I think if you're ever going to get him, if you don't already, now or next week is the time. It's the stars have aligned. Sam Kerridge will be around 385, 390, and Dangerfield, barring a 150, 160, which we know he's capable of. But if he just churns out anywhere from 110 to 130, I think he'll be around about 610. So it's probably as good as we can hope for, and Kerridge peaking as well means it's just about perfect timing. So I'd be looking to do that trade. If not now, then definitely next week. In the forward line, I think Deledio is at a good price. He looks good. He's a guy you're going to want come season's end, and I think he's not a bargain, but I think for what Deledio can produce, he's a very good option. So I'd be bringing him in. Now as for the captain choices, I had a dream, guys, not even kidding. Last night, just before I was going to bed, thought, I'll just check the SuperCoach just for a bit of a look and a bit of organisation as to how my team's going to roll out, think of a few trades and, what captain options I might implement. Now, I was having a bit of a think through and then just, nodded off to sleep. Then all of a sudden had the dream that Max Gawn came out and scored 174. So call me crazy, but I'm going to go with my dream. I think Max Gawn was probably one I would advise anyway because we know how big he can go. So I think if you got a VC to whack on someone, I would go Max Gawn. He kicked 3 goals in the second half of my dream and notched up to 174. So obviously we know, dreams aside, he can score some very, very big points as he did last week. And I think the two combinations most people will be looking at is going either of the two ruckmen for VC, Goldstein or Gawn, and then turning them into, say, a Dangerfield or something like that. Maybe Ablett, Pendlebury, whatever floats your boat. And of course the other and more safe option, if you have the ability to do this and if you have the time, because I know the Giants and Cats game and the Gold Coast and Swans game, the finishing points of those will, if not overlap, they'll be extremely close. So you could go Dangerfield into Ablett or Pendlebury and see what Dangers gets, and you'll probably be happy with it and probably take it. But it's always good just to rule out that odd chance that they have a stinker or get injured at half time. Now, obviously, if you're going with that one, then definitely monitor. You're probably going to have to just gauge it, be on the laptop and see how Dangerfield's going at 3/4 time, because I don't think you'll have fully scaled scores by the time you want to fully change those things around. So be careful with that. But otherwise, that's about a wrap for the weekend. There's nothing too much and too pressing, really. I think you just got to focus on getting a few of those guys in that you got to have premium-wise. Look out for Tom Rockcliffe. He'll be on the dive as well. Joel Selwood likewise. Luke Parker also. A couple I perhaps didn't mention there. And we are a bit slim on the old downgrade targets, which is a little concerning, but they'll naturally pop up. We got a couple in defence. There's a couple floating around. There isn't too many, but look, they generally pop up, and you can generally take a bit of a risk. Jack Trengove is debuting as well this week. Now, I didn't mention him because it's so hard to guess where he's going to be in a month, let alone 2 weeks. They're going to ease him into it, but he is at about 150, 160,000. He may be an option, so don't panic. If you do need a downgrade and there's no one available, feel free to ask me, who you best think is a guy who isn't playing but might get opportunity, because I know that can be also difficult to predict and forecast. So as always, feel free to ask me plenty of questions. I should get round to most of them. Busy couple of days, so we'll see how we go, but I should get round to most of them. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel as always. Starting to tick along up to the 350 mark, which is great. Really enjoy hearing from you guys and how you go, and it's always good to get another subscriber on board, and hopefully you're enjoying the content I'm churning out. So all the best for the weekend, hopefully another good week in SuperCoach, and I'll see you guys Monday.